Welcome back, folks, for another fun reloading video. Today's topic of discussion, I'm going to be showing you at least 10 ways to remove a military crimp from your brass. So there you are, you're a brand new reloader. You ran out of ammo from the Walmarts, and now you need to roll your own. So what do you have to do? Because you weren't saving your brass, you have to buy your own. So you get on the internets, you search around, range brass, fired brass, cheap brass, and what do you get? You get a big old sack of 500 sent right to your door, and it's all crimped. Because you're also new, you don't know what crimps are. So I'll show you what a crimp is really quick. So we'll start with some here that have not yet been deprimed. These are just military 308 and some weird communist stuff over here. But the first clear indicator is that they have a sealant around their primer. Now, a sealant doesn't necessarily indicate that it's been crimped, but more often than not, if you see ammo with a sealant, it's on a military-style ammunition. The next thing that we can also see these all have in common is this slight ring a little bit further out from the primer pocket. This is where they've actually pressed into the case head and crimped that primer into place. Here we can see a different example where they sort of stake it at different locations around the head. Normally this will be your 7.62 designation, but over here we can see this Federal 308 Winchester brass also has a sealant and a slight crimp around the primer. Here's a few more examples on some 5.56 cases. Here we can see the staking style crimps with the 3 locations around the primer pocket. Here we have another example with a sealant being used on the primer as well as that ring around the pocket. And here finally we have some 9mm casings with all of the same signs from our last pieces we've looked at. We have the sealant here on a couple of them. We have the military designation where it's 9x19 rather than 9mm. And we can also see that they have the rings where they've been crimped as well. And yes, I do sort out my 9mm brass just so I don't have to deal with any of this. So now that we know what crimps look like, what is a primer pocket crimp used for? Originally, the military were crimping their primers to prevent them from backing out of the case during firing of the weapon. This is obviously more of an issue with fully automatic weapons. And other sources also say it helps with the higher pressure rounds that they run. It keeps the primers from being blown out of the case. So that all sounds great and handy and useful until you want to go and reload that case. There's a couple different methods to remove these crimps, but about 100 different tools that can all achieve the same end result. The first method would be to swage it, which is just moving the material out of the way. And the other way would be to ream out that material. Some people obviously enjoy swaging because they're not removing any material, but others also claim that reaming doesn't take enough material out to actually matter. So with all that being said, here's at least 10 ways to remove a primer pocket crimp from your brass. We'll start at the top of the food chain with all that high dollar yum yum that everyone loves. Here is the Dillon Super Swage. You simply put your case over this little rod here, you lower it into the body, and you lower your handle, and it pushes the material away from the primer pocket. Some people even put a little rubber band on here, and it flings the case off when you're done. It comes with a small primer and a large primer rod, and it's running approximately $120 on their website. Here we have the RCBS bench-mounted primer pocket swaging tool. It also has a large and a small rod you can change for your primer pocket swage, and it works nearly the same. These are currently running anywhere from $100 to $120 online at this time. Third on our list, we have the Frankfurt Arsenal Platinum Series Primer Pocket Swager. This one's running about $110 online. And again, you can mount it on your bench and torque on it all day. Funny story about this device. I picked one up at a garage sale for like $20 thinking, wow, what a score. I take it home and there was a little rod broken out of the back, and since I'm not the original owner, they will not fix it under any warranty. Which is not a slam on Vista Outdoors. They require either your receipt or some other proof of purchase, essentially. Fourth on our list of how to remove a military crimp, we have the Hornady Lock and Load AP Primer Pocket Swage Tool. As we can see, this one's running just under $100, but this only does 5.56. If you want to do your 7.62 or pistol brass, you have to get a separate one just for those at full cost. And this one exclusively works with their lock and load press. So if you have anything else or you want to do it on your bench, too bad, so sad, that's all you get. But if you have this press, I'm sure it works just fine. One more example of a swaging tool, we have the Lee APP press, which runs about $80 or $90 on its own, and then you have to buy the swaging kit as well, which is probably going to run you another $30 on top of that. But if you're doing some high volume stuff, I hear this is the way to go. You can't beat the price, and once the plastic wears out, Lee will just send you some new ones. That, or you get into 3D printing and basically upgrade the entire press on your own. So I know what you're thinking. Man, this reloading stuff's really expensive. I got into this to save some money. Well, we all know you're not going to save any money. You're just going to shoot more for the same amount of money you already budgeted to spend. So when your wife's like, that stuff's too expensive, you say, but babe, how am I supposed to properly prime my brass with a military crimp in the way? And she's like, well, hey, dummy, have you checked out this RCBS military crimp remover? You can either chuck it up into your drill or put it into your prep center that already has a couple of extra spots on it. And we can see we simply put our case head down onto this spinning tool here, and it'll bottom out at the proper distance every single time. And your wife will be happy to point out that this one only runs $22. But joke's on her, if you need a large primer pocket remover, you'll have to buy a second one for that as well. So we can't spend our $22, we have to bring it down even lower. Do not worry, we can ream out our primer pockets with this Lyman tool for just over $12. Be sure to note that this is only your small primer pocket tool. You will also need one for your large primer pockets. This all brings me to my next option, and this is the one I'm currently using. Here we have our Lyman Multitool. Notice we have small and large primer pocket reamers, as well as small and large primer pocket cleaners. This multi-tool also comes with your outside deburr tool and your VLD inside deburr tool. Pro tip, this tool actually works really well on small primer pocket reaming. So if you're like me and you want to save a few dollars in the long run, get the multi-tool so you can do your small and large pockets as well as finish prepping your brass, and this way we can get two birds stoned at once. And if for some reason you're just working on your primer pockets at that time, we can also put these in our drill or our case prep center. Speaking of using your drill to speed up production, we can use this standard drill bit that's just larger than the size of the primer pocket. We can do this by hand, we can put this in a power drill, or we can use a drill press so we have the same depth every single time. Getting towards the end of the list, you might think these ideas are totally ridiculous. However, I've tried these and they actually work. Here's a number 2 Phillips bit. Just like your reamers, it takes off that very edge of the crimp and bottoms out just at the right time. And while you have your drill bits out, you can take a number 1 Phillips bit and uniform your flash holes. And our last option for the day, this is sort of a last-ditch effort, apocalyptically speaking. Here I've got my dirty-ass pocket knife, which happens to have a blade on it. I'm no metallurgist, but I think this blade might be a little harder than my piece of brass I'm trying to work with. Now, this isn't something I would want to do hundreds of cases with, but for proof of concept, I went ahead and tried a few. We can see just inside the case head that nice shiny line where I've removed a bit of material. Now, this isn't going to be perfect or uniform every single time, but as we can see, the good old pocket knife will do just fine. And there we have it, folks. There's at least 10 ways to remove a crimp from your primer pockets. If you have made it all the way through the video, I really appreciate you hanging out. Make sure to stay tuned for more, because there's always more on the way. Thanks again for hanging out, guys. We will see you in the next video. Have a good one.